Hi everyone, welcome back. It's another installment of a Muscatine Moment. My name is Tony Tone Lokensoll with MPW, Muscatine Power and Water, and joining me today is someone who's making their first appearance on a Muscatine Moment, but no stranger to Muscatine. We have Hillary Hankey, who is the Community Engagement Manager with United Way of Muscatine County. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
And I just wanted to say, so we had seen each other about a week and a half ago. Shane Orr at United Way and yourself were at Muscatine Power and Water power plant. We had these employee informational meetings, and you guys did a great presentation on United Way, and we got to talking, and I'm like, we should do this on a Muscatine Moment, and here we are. So thanks. And that was great. And Hillary, correct me if I'm wrong, those are things that you guys would do for other companies, organizations, where you can kind of come to them with sort of the United Way information?
Absolutely. Right now we're in the midst of like our main campaign season, but we can do campaigns whenever works best for companies. So we do a lot of presentations this time of year, and we're more than happy to come anywhere to any organization or business to present on what United Way is doing and
it's fantastic
how people can get involved.
And you guys had, maybe not a ton of time when you were presenting to us, but you packed in a lot of great information, and there was a great way to do it in sort of a story format. But I want to start with Day of Caring. So Day of Caring kind of gets wrapped up. And for those that are watching this and maybe are not familiar, give us a little background on Day of Caring and then how it went for 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. So Day of Caring, we've been doing it at United Way since 2007. So we're coming up on 20 years now. So it's pretty exciting. It's an event where groups, so we actually do 5 Day of Caring events a year now because it got so big several years ago that we decided to split it up. But essentially, the Fall Day of Caring is Muscatine's citywide Day of Caring. So we have different businesses and just anybody who is interested in volunteering can form teams or go by themselves. We find projects at senior citizen homes, other nonprofit entities, sometimes like city and county parks and areas like that. And so people have a chance to go outside or be indoors and just give back to the community. And it makes such a big difference. This year in the fall, September 17th, we had 229 volunteers that completed 29 different projects.
Wow.
That equates, they had about 870 volunteer hours in just one day. And that's a value of over $30,000 to our community in volunteer hours in just one day. And then, as I mentioned, we do this, we do a Spring Day of Caring for Muscatine High School students. And then we do one for L&M high school students and junior high. And then we have a Wilton citywide Day of Caring, and their entire elementary school gets involved in that. So that's a lot of fun. And then in the summer, we have an intern Day of Caring where interns from various businesses get an opportunity to engage in our community in a different way than maybe they have so far.
What an unbelievable thing to be able to say. That many volunteers working hard, giving back. And that's also a lot of work and undertaking on the logistics for you guys. But I also wonder for people that are going to see this that maybe are like, oh my gosh, I'm unable to do X and Y for myself. Would they be, how could they talk to United Way about potentially maybe benefiting from a Day of Caring in 2026 or the next time this comes around? How does that process work?
So typically, for a September event, we start looking for projects in July because you have to allow time for projects to be registered. We always use our volunteer website, volunteermuscatine.org, and you can find volunteer opportunities on there any time of the year, not just for Day of Caring. But that's a great place that you can also track your hours and have a resume and everything. But anyway, we put all of the volunteer opportunities for events like Day of Caring on the volunteer website. So if somebody's interested, typically a lot of the senior citizens will work through Senior Resources and Laura Vargas, but we do have a handful that we've helped in the past that maybe, they're not physically able to do the work anymore, and they maybe don't have the funding to pay to have it done, and so we're able to get out there and help. We have a lady who we've helped the last couple of years, and she is going to be 100 in March, and she invited me to her birthday party.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and she doesn't look it. She does. She looks amazing.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Happy early 100th birthday. What's her first name?
Betty Renner. Yeah.
Betty. Okay, Betty. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
She's great. Yeah, her
great-granddaughter
granddaughter was out there at Muskie Day of Caring helping, and yeah, then her daughter actually does a lot at the Wilton Library at the garden out there, and so we've helped them for Wilton Day of Caring before, and that's how she got connected. So that's one way. we looked for volunteer projects in Wilton. They needed help at the library garden. So her daughter had reached out about, hey, would you guys be able to help my mom with this? And absolutely.
So
and then
good.
her neighbor's involved now.
Sure.
So
It's the best.
They would just kind of keep an eye on our website and reach out to us if they are interested in having a project done.
Wow. So 100 years old, and just again, if you look on United Way Muscatine social media, you can see photos from Day of Caring, and it's really one of those things like, if you are able to participate, and even if that's like writing a check, that's always good too. But certainly, if you're watching this in your organization or individual or church or group is like, we've never done that, we would like to help out. And I know that there are maybe just a few people that haven't participated, because you guys have done such a great job in almost 20 years. I would just encourage that they do that. And I'm glad you mentioned that, volunteermuscatine.org. What a great resource. And you spoke to this, but and I get asked this a lot, is just how do you know where to start with volunteering? And I always tell people volunteermuscatine.org. It is right there. There's so many things that you could do and get plugged into if you're like a new retiree or just someone that's looking to give back. Great resource, and I feel like that has been something that you guys have, whether there's been more of a focus or not, it is out there. And when I feel comfortable always telling people to check it out. So that's a kudos to your team for really doing a nice job having that updated, and no shortage of volunteer opportunities, right?
Yeah, and it's not just United Way volunteer opportunities, it's any nonprofit in the community. So it's a great way to check that out. And I'm glad you mentioned retirees, because we now have a program, the RSVP program, Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. We just started that in the spring. And so that's a great, it's a federal program through AmeriCorps, and it's a great way for people 55 and over to get engaged in the community and to be recognized for their volunteerism. I've heard a few retirees have come and said, I was so busy at work and now I retired and I have these amazing skills that I would just love to be put to good use in our community. And so just get in touch with us about RSVP. We'd love to get you signed up as an RSVP volunteer. Kind of one of our main focuses for that is our Reading Mentors program, which we started back in 22-23 school year. And that's been tremendously successful. Partnerships with the schools, and we've seen great increases in reading proficiency rates. And it's not just Reading Mentors, it's all of these things working together with our amazing teachers and programs and curriculum. So
that's what a genius RSVP. I mean, that is just perfect. 55 and up, a great way to get connected. Reading Mentors, just one of those really important pieces. I want to back up and just, so give us a little bit of your, and we should have done this at the start, but we start on these conversations and whatever. But just give us, and for people watching, a little bit of your background, because you've been at United Way for
about 3.5 years.
I was going to say, I felt like it was less than 5, so I was right. But you've come in, hit the ground running, and I feel like you've been a fantastic addition to the United Way and to the community. But just share about your experience maybe before United Way, and then what have you been maybe most proud of, looking forward to? Because you're also a big thinker, which I appreciate, wanting to try and do new things. So.
Yeah, so my background is a combination of, I was in social work early on with LSI. That was my first job right out of college. And then I went into higher ed for the majority of my career has been in higher education in the student services realm. So most recently I was Director of Student Services and External Relations at Trinity College of Nursing and Health Sciences. I'm glad my title and the title of my organization is shorter now. It's not quite a mouthful, but so I've always had a role in like helping people achieve their goals and just be able to become self-sufficient, which is a lot of what we're doing at United Way. So this is a really great fit because, we have the volunteer aspect, we have our Kids First Fund, we get to just help so many entities and people in the community just to have their basic needs met or to be on the path to economic mobility through a number of our services. And so I think that's just really exciting. Gosh, I think the Reading Mentors program, that is probably the thing that I'm most excited about and most proud of. Like I said, we had a couple of the principals that reached out in the spring of 2022 about that program, and we got with our Educate United committee, and now it's a real thing. And we've seen, so just for example, one of the schools where we piloted the program and another school both started out with 58% reading proficiency on the fall fast test score.
Sure.
And the school that had reading mentors had a 34% increase compared to a 14% increase at the school that didn't. And so now we're in talks with West Liberty to expand that program. It's going to be county-wide soon, and I love that. We've seen through Muscatine County, so we have a number of metrics that we track, but one of them is third grade reading proficiency.
Sure.
And that's so important because I'm sure you know this, but kids who read proficiently by third grade are 4 times more likely to graduate from high school. It's huge. So our reading proficiency rate throughout the county was 47% in 2022, 2023. It's at 59% as of 2024,
That's
2025.
So exciting.
We're trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just up until third grade, kids are learning to read. Third grade on, they read to learn. So if we can just get that, we can really help set the path for these kids going forward, and that's exciting.
And you got to love, and you just shared this, but when you have the data that says it's working, right? You can get a sense, you can have a feeling, you can see it, you can observe positive interactions, but then when you can see test data increasing, that tells a good story. And it serves the community, right? You want to set the young people up for success so that they can continue to move through school and graduate and then get jobs and hopefully stay or come back to Muscatine, right? It's that cycle.
Absolutely.
And that's where if you're seeing this and you're like, how can I get involved? That reading mentor program. And to hear that it's going to go countywide is just great. You know, I was on United Way, Muscatine.org, your website, UnitedWayMuscatine.org, this morning, and there's just so many powerful stats and indicators, and you guys show your work so well, and I know that that's a vital piece of what you do. But one of those programs, and you mentioned it, I want to go to it, is that Kids First Fund. So we talk about the youth again, and maybe people will say, well, I've seen those Kids First Fund pancake breakfast, or I've contributed in this way, but speak to that program and how that serves our young people as well here in town.
Absolutely. Do you want a little bit of background of how it started?
Please, yes.
It started back in 2009. There were a group of community members who had found out there was a child and children in our community who wanted to be able to participate in soccer, but their families couldn't afford to pay the registration fees.
Sure.
So they started the Kids First Fund, and now United Way runs it. But it's more than that now. Now we partner with the resource navigators and school employees all across the county and in L&M, and the school employee can identify anything that's a barrier to a child to be successful in school, and they submit a Kids First request form for us, and we can turn around and get that item for them usually within 24 hours, oftentimes very, very quickly. We try to make that happen. Through the Kids First Fund, we do $10,000 worth of back-to-school shoes every single year.
Holy moly.
Yep. But a lot of times the needs that they have, it's just very basic stuff. It's weather-appropriate clothing, it's shoes, it's school supplies. Oftentimes for the high school kids, it's, graphing calculators are pricey, but they have to have them.
Yep.
And so sometimes we'll purchase graphing calculators. Sometimes it's glasses so that they can see the board, they can see their work, and just be able to be successful. But we still do the activity registration fees or equipment that they need, because we recognize how important it is for kids to be engaged in those things, because they connect to their peers and their school and their community, and that's so vital. So yeah, and
I love what you said, like remove those barriers, right? So that and we talked a little bit about this when Jim and Arlene were here with Laundry of Love. They spoke to the same thing, like ultimately kids can't control the circumstances that they find themselves in, right? So if there's a way for their needs or desires to be met and it can be done with that Kids First Fund, it's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Right? And they shouldn't feel different or unable to do things unlike their peers. Those pancake breakfasts have been around for a long time. People have supported those for years. Are there other ways, other opportunities that people could contribute? Do you prefer the monetary type based on just the varying needs of different students? Is that the best way for folks that are watching this that are like, oh my gosh, Kid First Fund, I definitely want to do something to support that? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, a monetary donation is the best. We don't have a lot of storage space in our office, and it's also impossible to predict what the need's going to be, right? So like if it's snow pants, that's going to be coming up sooner than I like to think, and it certainly doesn't feel like it today. But we can't have all the range of sizes of boys and girls snow pants, and definitely in our office. So what we like to do is to be able to purchase the items as the need arises, just again, because we don't have storage space for all of the various things.
Another thing you mentioned before we started talking and recording this episode of Muscatine Moment, Hillary Hankey, Community Engagement Manager, United Way Muscatine. Go to unitedwaymuscatine.org. Halloween's coming up, and you guys, for the first time, did a Halloween costume drive. I'm 42 now. I know I don't look it. Thank you, viewers. I look 41 is what you're going to say. I have my Halloween costume picked out. It'll be a surprise just because I've always been a fan of Halloween. I wouldn't have thought of an idea like a Halloween costume drive, and I feel bad that I wouldn't have had that thought because I used to work for the school district, and we're talking about kids that may have some barriers, and for some, they don't have the ability to get a Halloween costume. So how did that originate, and then how did it go? And what a just wonderful thing to do, by the way.
It originated because about a year ago, around Halloween, we had posted just a photo on our Facebook page, and it was to raise awareness about the fact that 37% of households in Muscatine County are what we call the ALICE population, so asset limited, income constrained, employed. 13% of people in Muscatine County are poverty level, but there's another 24% that are working and still struggling to meet their basic needs. So this was to raise awareness to that fact, and it said, hey, there may be children in the community that may be trick-or-treating that aren't in costumes because their families can't afford it, and they maybe oftentimes are working 2 or 3 jobs. They don't have time to make a costume either. And so please just be mindful of that, and you know, it allowed them to enjoy the holiday. So we posted that, and Amber Gregory with GPC reached out to us on Facebook and said, hey, could we potentially do a costume drive? Like, this really touched my heart. I want to help these kids. I want to make sure that they can have a great holiday. So thank you, Amber, for that. So she had the idea. We formed a little committee and reached out to Walmart. They gave us donations from excess costumes from last year. We're trying to work with Goodwill to get costumes that aren't sold this year. And then we had a drive at some of the local businesses. And I'm super excited to say that we have 323 pieces. Like, some of those are accessories like witch hats, but you can make that into a costume. A lot of them are full costumes. So this year we're targeting, because it's our first run, right? Like, we didn't know what we were going to get. So we are targeting preschool and elementary age students right now in the Muscatine Community School District. And hopefully we'll be able to expand it going forward, but you've got to start somewhere, right? So we're working with the resource navigators. They're going to have vouchers for families. So we have our inventory list, so we know what we have, and they'll be able to indicate, you know, child and gender and size and that kind of thing. So when they come to pick up their costumes on our distribution day, they'll be able to, we're partnering with Musserville Church. That's the great thing about United Way. There's always so many people that are willing to partner with us, and we can bring so many agencies together. So Cindy Axel has been so kind to let us use that as a storage space, and that'll be where they can come shop. So we'll have racks of costumes up. So it'll feel like they're going to a store and they get to pick out their own costume, which I think is really important. It's not just, you know, us choosing.
I remember when you started talking about that social media post, because I felt like that kind of maybe went like Muscatine viral, right? Like, a lot of people interacted and thought, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have realized that if someone comes to your door, if a group of kids are there and there's 4 of them and 3 are in a costume and 1 isn't, because what you could do is say, and I would hope that no one would ever say anything like, where's your costume, right? But I mean, sometimes that happens. And maybe, you know, it's an innocent thing to say, but you're not understanding that that young person didn't have a choice, right? They're just in front of your door. They're trying to enjoy Halloween with their peers. So to hear that it just stemmed from that to an idea, shout out Amber Gregory, that's super cool. And then everybody that kind of stepped up to help out, over 300 pieces available. Wow.
It's amazing. I was blown away. So that was actually a Day of Caring project. Amber and her team went and they inventoried. They picked up donations and inventoried all of these costumes. And when she told me the number, you know, I thought we were going to be doing good to get 50. Right? And she said we had 303, and I was like blown away. Muscatine, I shouldn't say it never ceases to amaze me, because I'm amazed over and over and over again about the generosity of the people here and their willingness to come together. I mean, anytime we've had an event, when we had flooding on the riverfront and we needed cleanup, or when we had RAGBRAI, we had other communities reaching out and saying, how are you getting so many volunteers? And I said, I just told people we needed help, and they volunteer.
It's incredible, and that's been my experience in the 13 years that I've lived here, is whatever the need, it seems like we can together meet it. And I think United Way does such a great job of, sometimes you're out leading the charge, sometimes you're facilitating. You guys can really be a one-stop shop. So if people have ideas or things they want to try, we're coming up into the holiday season, and I'm sure there'll be different things that people can do to support those that maybe need a hand up. And then just the data side and the stuff with Aligned Impact Muscatine County, you have so much packed under the roof called United Way. And I love that you said you don't have a lot of space for storage in your offices. You guys, my gosh, your footprint, you're just doing so much. It's impressive because it's not like there's 75 people working on the team. You got a small team that does a lot. And the results are there. I would encourage you, if you're watching, go to unitedwaymuscatine.org and see it for yourself. See the numbers, read the stories, and then get involved. What else is coming up? So we're taping this September 29th. So again, coming into October, which is wild to think about. Holidays are on the way. What should people know about? How can they get connected, give time? We already talked about volunteering, but anything else you want to share connected to United Way between now and, let's say, the end of the year?
Yeah, so things that are coming up immediately, right now it's campaign season, and we can't do the work that we do without money, right? It takes funding. So we still grant out a good deal of money to all these partner agencies. Our focuses are education, housing programs, and then of course basic needs. We still will always fund things like the food pantries, domestic violence shelter, homeless shelter, things like that. So donate if you can. That's how we keep this all going. We have our internal programs and those external programs. But if you want to volunteer, we are looking for more volunteers for reading mentors. Pretty soon we're going to be looking for volunteers for volunteer income tax assistance, VITA.
Okay.
So that'll be right after the first of the year, but we start getting volunteers and having them go through the IRS training before the end of the year typically. We've expanded that again. We just started that a couple years ago and it's growing. So that's where people can get their taxes done for free by a volunteer who's trained using IRS software and households $67,000 a year or less. So that Alice population are able to get their taxes done for free. We see a lot of senior citizens, but it's a lot easier to find volunteers who want to read to kids than it is to find volunteers who want to do taxes, believe it or not. I know it's shocking.
I believe it.
So if anybody is interested in that, and it's very similar, the software that they use is very similar to like TurboTax. And so you don't have to be a tax expert to volunteer for VITA. We have all kinds of different people who volunteer for that. So that's something that'll be big. We have our next Kids First Pancake Breakfast November 14th. So that's coming up just around the corner here. And so those are some of the big things that are in the immediate future.
Good. Yeah. It's always busy, it seems like. And again, I feel like you guys have just done a phenomenal job. And it really can be, if you're watching this, so again, I work at MPW, and I have MPW, like others, has it so that employees can donate we get paid every 2 weeks, and that's how I contribute. I don't even see it. I don't have to think about it. It's payroll deduct. It's really slick, little form, boom, boom, and then it helps out the United Way. It's really that easy. I'm simplifying it because I'm not a good person with finance and stuff, but it's that easy, right? So if you're watching and if your employer offers it, see if that makes sense for you. And if they don't, is it just a matter of contacting United Way to talk about that?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
We can set up like donations every so often. You can pay by cash, via check. We have Just Giving account where you can use PayPal, Venmo, Google Pay, Apple Pay, credit card, what have you. So you can donate really any way that works best for you. But yeah, I would encourage, if your employer offers payroll deduction, that makes it easy because even just a couple bucks a pay period is $52 a year. That's for Kids First numbers, like we do $50 per child, so you can help one child in Muscatine to be connected and remove barriers from school with just like that amount of funding. So
great. Always putting stuff on social media, so let's just plug all the places. I've mentioned the website, but where can people find you on socials? I got a phone number written down. I don't know if you're getting a lot of calls anymore, but I've got that written down. But let's just kind of wrap up, Hillary, and just give them all the ways that they can connect with United Way of Muscatine County.
Absolutely. So we have a TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. LinkedIn's kind of newer for us, so I don't think we have a whole lot on there, but TikTok and Facebook are our main social medias where you can find a lot of information. And then, you can call us, 563-263-5963. You can email, you can stop in and see us, whatever works best for you. The volunteer website, again, is is volunteermuscatine.org, and our website is unitedwaymuscatine.org. So you can connect with us however you see fit. But we'd love to hear from you, whether it is through philanthropic giving or through volunteerism. All of those things are very important to make our community go round.
Absolutely, and a perfect fit for what we're trying to do here with the Muscatine Moment. I'm sure you'll come back.
Yes, yep.
Maybe we'll talk Shane into coming on too. Again, it's a small but mighty crew at United Way of Muscatine. And please go to the website, unitedwaymuscatine.org. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So many good things going on in this town, and that's what we're trying to do. So with folks like Hillary and the crew at United Way, and others, if you're watching and you think of someone or a group or whomever that you would like to see on this show, reach out to myself. Pretty easy to get a hold of on social media or at Power and Water. And if you see Jeremy Ferguson, who's behind the scenes making this happen, let him know. We'd love to have those folks on this. So this is produced at Muscatine Community College in the studios. It's awesome. I want to give a big thanks to Jeremy Ferguson, who's doing the work behind the scenes. Thanks for watching a Muscatine Moment. We will see you next time. Take care, and remember, unitedwaymuscatine.org and volunteermuscatine.org. Check out those websites. Thanks, everybody. Bye.